uh, came at a very early age, and very much through my parents and my dad in particular, who grew up in South Africa in a boarding school where a lot of the older kids would give him their records or show their records to him. So that was the likes of Bad Company and the Police and Kansas and Fleetwood Mac and everything in between. As I grew up, Dad got into the new technology of the compact disc and the DVD player, and as live DVDs kind of came around, I think it was really, those live DVDs that started to make me realize I really want to play rock and roll. Because before that, I was listening to just the typical children's music that we all listened to growing up. But it was seeing like guys like Jeff Lynne and Lindsey Buckingham and Brian May and Freddie Mercury, and seeing how they moved on stage and how they just commanded a crowd. My first electric guitar was a Squire Strat Sunburst model, which I got as a 13th birthday present. And I think in terms of acoustic, I had like a little red Ashton, but yeah, so. The biggest one a few years ago would have had to have been Mike Elrington, who was the co-producer on my first record, Searching for Answers. And prior to that I got to give credit where credit's due to Anthea Palmer, who was kind of the first person to book me for a proper set, and that was back at the old Chandelier Room in Moorabbin, where I played my first show and did my first demos. Absolutely. I guess because a lot of my early influences were bands and frontmen, not so much acoustic guys. That was kind of always what I wanted to do was be a frontman, whether it was Joshua Batten Plus band or a band that I just happened to be in. That was kind of the direction I always wanted to go in. Uh, it's different every time, but there's always going to be something, whether it's a hook or a chord progression or a title, or more often than not, I guess, a concept or some kind of subject. So for me, it's not as simple for me to just sit down and go, okay, I'm going to write a song. The idea or gestation usually comes when I'm walking down the street or going for a swim or just sitting on the train. Just something will pop in, or I'll read a story and say, oh, that's nice, I should probably write a song about that. So, and from there I kind of just write a bunch of different ideas and a couple of phrases. Maybe if there's a rhyme here or there that I want to use as a starting point, I'll use that. So yeah, it kind of varies every time. I kind of wrote it. Silver Dollars I kind of wrote as an album opener, yeah, or in mind as kind of something that would be really upbeat and kind of drive everything forward. Yes, I guess kind of inspiration-wise, the idea was to try and come up with a song about having money or lack thereof, because one of the downsides of being a struggling singer-songwriter and living at home is like I'm always thinking about like how to spend money and how to save money, and the two sides are always kind of constantly fighting. So I came up with a line: you can have your silver dollars, you can keep your golden chains, but if you can't live without them, then nothing's going to keep you from pain. And yeah, I really was kind of trying to tap into what I guess was kind of the British rock vibe. So like Status Quo, Suzi Quatro, Slade, and yeah, something to kind of kick things into a loud gear with. And that opening riff I actually was just kind of a noodle for a while as well, and it didn't really have a home until I sat down to write the song. probably the slide is the most personal song on there, because I wrote it when I was, even though it's the most upbeat song on the record, it was written during the kind of the darkest period of my life. I was about halfway through my degree, and I was having a lot of anxiety, feeling a lot of pressure upon myself to kind of just know where I was going to go in the next few years and have like a proper plan. And I just felt like all this pressure, and pressure led to depression, and I didn't know, and I kind of started to realize that like I think the idea that like all my actions have reactions and consequences, I guess, was kind of just creeping in and just taking over and replaying over and over in my head. And so I was just watching TV one night and came across Shark Tank, and there was this lovely couple who came on like with a three-piece mariachi band behind them, doing advertising some their homemade salsas and sauces and stuff. And the opening line from the guy was, "Mexican culture is colorful, it's fun, it makes people smile." And so here was I was trying to find the thing that could make me smile as much as anyone else. So this is my main guitar, which is a Paul Reed Smith Custom 24. I think it's a 2012 model with the full humbuckers. And the thing I love about this guitar, I guess, is just it kind of does. It's kind of a Strat and a Les Paul all in one. Like it's got the straight bridge, and but can also handle the kind of rough bluesy tones, and as well as the jazzy stuff. So for me, it's perfect. And at first, I didn't actually think I was going to use this one as much. My other guitar, which I do have with me, is a 60th anniversary channel-bound Fender Stratocaster, and that one I bought specifically as kind of like a work guitar. At times when I didn't really want to take the Paul Reed Smith into the city. But it's got a very different tone. It's because it's got the single coils. It's got a very kind of bitey sound, and because I noticed a lot of singer-songwriters, I guess, going more for Fenders than say Gibsons or anything else, or Paul Reed Smiths. I thought that I was going to be using the Strat a lot more on this record, and I think, and indeed, on a lot of the early sessions, I brought in the Strat, and we just recorded with the Strat, and then Sean said, "Well, I think we could do with a bit more grunt and a bit more punch on these tunes. So why don't you bring in the Paul Reed Smith?" Ooh, it's tough because I guess because I am a real perfectionist, and often like when I'm listening to a mix, I'll be listening quite intensely for anything that like sounds a little bit off to me. And I guess when people say, when I hear enough, when I play, when it gets to a point where like there's enough or too few mistakes that I can just kind of let slide, or just a couple of mistakes that I can let slide, or someone else tells me, "No, it's good now. You can, it's really good." That's when I kind of have to take a step back and say, "Okay, this is as good as it's going to get." So looking at doing another single in February, and then putting the album out towards the end of March. We've got a few band gigs locked in at the moment. We'll be doing the Nightjar Festival on February 28th, and the Penny Black in Melbourne on the 6th of March, and then we'll do a proper run of shows in April, May. I'd love to go to America and meet some of the guys in Nashville and get some attention going here, and get some stuff happening in Europe. But of course, I haven't seen enough of my home country as well. So just the chance to tour the country and go to Sydney and Adelaide and Brisbane and Perth and Canberra and everywhere in between would just be a dream in itself.